can start. You sure you want to be so far away, huh? Yes, so thank you for coming. I'm very happy that you're here. By the way, I have no idea where you come from, but if you're here, there must be a reason. I think that it would be much easier if I can call you William. Is that okay? It would be much easier for me. Huh? Can I call you William? I mean, not you, but the whole of you. Is that okay? I always feel much better. Hi, Eileen. I just started without you. Mostly nothing. So, dear William, thank you for coming. Feels better? See, the distance between me and you is always the same. You are there and me, I'm here. But don't you have the feeling that we know each other a little bit better? Don't you have the feeling that we are closer? Hi, William? Thank you for coming. Actually, I don't know where you come from, huh? Do you remember how you came here? Do you have a car? Yes. Do you hear me well or not? Good. So, do I have a bike? Who do you have to meet after this? Someone? Don't think too much about it, because you know, you were not thinking about it then. You're thinking about it now. I have the feeling, in fact, that every time we try to make an act of consciousness, we are having something like a beyond human experience. See where I want to go? Look, I walk staircases all day. I guess you walk staircases all day, up and down, right up and down, all day. It's just that you don't notice it, but we are stair walkers. It's just when you miss one step that you understand that you were walking down the stairs. See where I want to go? Easy, no? What I'm trying to say is that my brain can do much better without me. It dreams without me. Right? It doesn't need me. So I think that in a way, every time you try to have a very deep experience of what this I is, you're doing something like a beyond human experience. More or less. More or less. Yes, this tradition of beyond human experience is very old. It started many thousands years ago. And I think one of the first one was death. Do you remember 3,000 years ago, the Book of Dead? That was beautiful. So the soul of the dead has to travel through 12 doors, like the sun, at the moment of the sunset, to reach the sunrise. Do you remember Ulysses, when he went to the wind, to talk to the wind? Can you imagine this? Is amazing. Someone that goes and tells his story to the wind. I mean mathematics, I mean technology, science, all these things now, they allow you to go inside a volcano and see what is happening there, right? Yes, but you will melt like butter if you go inside a volcano. See what I'm saying? Your body will explode if you go to space. Just only thinking about quantum mechanics, I have headaches. My brain goes crazy. Without the tools, without the languages, that sounds invented as shelters. Where do I want to go with this? I wanted just to say that probably metaphors, gods, allegories, they were the first techniques, probably, to experience what this body cannot. I think I wrote something very nice here. I said, poetry was doing already beautiful things, connecting this body to its death. Or death. Connecting this body to its death. Huh? The existence, connecting the existence to what doesn't exist yet. I'm not saying, it's not a matter about what is doing better than what. If science is doing better than poetry, or poetry better than science. It's not about this. This is the wrong question to ask. What is the wrong question? I don't know. I have no idea. But I think it's a matter of intensity. So that's why I just invited some very beautiful people tonight, this evening, because I thought that the questions I have about poetry and mathematics and science are not just my questions. And so I wanted to invite those people to, not to give us answers. It's not about this, once again, I'm always wrong. It's not to give us answers, but so we can have together the experience of trying and answering. So I decided to invite Yuhri I Manin, just one of the most important mathematicians of this century. Can I say this? It's heavy, eh? It's very heavy as a responsibility.
Too strong.
Too strong. So can I call you? Can I say that you're a bird, or you prefer Don Giovanni?
Okay, bird.
A bird. So it seems that in fact I read somewhere that they divide mathematicians somehow into categories. I don't know if it's true. Maybe it's just a legend. Some of them are birds and some of them are frogs. So apparently frogs, they prefer their tails and problems and things that approach them and that they can approach. And it seems instead birds, they fly very, very high. Huh? And they see a huge landscape and they can see through horizons. And where we see borders, they see bridges. Is this okay as a metaphor? As an example? Complicated? Easy, right? And then I decided to invite Yuhri also because every time I read his text, I always have the feeling of traveling. Always from mathematics that I don't understand, through Shakespeare that I understand a little bit better, through the rise of human consciousness that I don't understand at all. And then I decided I thought to invite Eileen Myles. And I thought to invite Eileen Myles because I was listening to Sonic Youth in the 90s. And then I was listening to a lot of music in the 90s. And then when you listen to a lot of music, or a certain kind of music, then you feel that you're part of the scene. And then that's when I discovered Eileen. At that time, she was running a campaign to become president of the United States. I think it was 1991, 1992. And the speech for the campaign was a poem. And I invited her because I thought, if Eileen is here, she can probably go beyond human experience in the sense of the self, to discover the inner self of person, something. And instead, she completely surprised me. She said, no, I'm coming up to something completely different. And I will not say anything more. I don't want to ruin the surprise. And then I decided to invite Serhiy Zhadan, because I think that he can take every subject and transform every subject as a pair of socks. You know when you take a pair of socks and you go like inside out? He's great. He can use metaphors and images and words and show you the inside out of things. And then I thought, you know what? I would like to change ideas. So what better than someone that turns you upside down and inside out? So now I will leave you with this beautiful, amazing people. I will say things more interesting than what I said so far. And I think you really
you for inviting me. I always love to speak before young people. And also, for some years, I wanted to meet Serhiy Zhadan, and when it turned out that he's invited here as well, I just could not resist. Okay, my self-presentation is called Rainbow of the Universe. This particular rainbow was seen by my wife from our balcony, and she made this picture. And then looking through some physical journals, I found out the quotation, "The rainbow is a bridge between poetry and science." This statement can be interpreted in various senses. Here I wanted to stress just one, that a rainbow excites deep emotions in a human being that can move a human being both toward poetry, one can even say that rainbow is a poetry, and towards science. When I have written this, and when Alex Cecchetti, who is organizing this meeting, has read them, he asked me, but what is a rainbow? Well, a rainbow is something that you sometimes see, but that does not exist objectively. It is an apparition. You can see it if you stand with your back to the sun, as an arc or even two arcs. You see the secondary rainbow here. In the sky, consisting of colors of spectrum. It is a combined effect of two refractions and one reflection of sunlight in each of many, many drops of water, forming a part of clouds before you. In a sense, it is as subjective and also as objective as graphic perspective described geometrically during early Renaissance. However, the passage from understanding perspective to the understanding rainbow marks an essential progress in understanding light, from geometric optic to wave optic. And then I suddenly thought that if François Villon asked me, "Mais où sont les neiges d'antan?" This is a recurring line in his Ballad of Dead Ladies, Les Dames du Temps Jadis. He would not expect, Villon would not expect explanations about the physics of melting that turns snow into water, then evaporation of this water, and the resulting clouds that can, in certain conditions, show us a rainbow. But we who know all of this can now imagine that we see in colorful water drops of a rainbow Villon's snows of yesteryear, and even les dames du temps jadis, those beautiful ancient ladies dreamed up by the restless écolier. So this was a bridge, but regarding the science of rainbows, I can cite the following from the actual physical paper. Some of the most powerful tools of mathematical physics were devised explicitly to deal with the problem of rainbow and the closely related problem. Indeed, the rainbow has served as a touchstone for testing theories of optics. When the move the most successful of these theories became known, it is now possible to describe rainbow mathematically, that is, to predict the distribution of light in the sky. After that, I was not surprised that the site poemhunter.com contains about 400 poems about rainbows, and I am sure also that almost anyone sitting in this audience who can start composing her or his rainbow poem after just having had this challenge. What I want to stress here also is the following surprising phenomenon. The two ways leading from rainbow to human heart, the way of scientific knowledge and the way of poetic revelation, are totally disjoint when considered, say, as a sequence of speech acts. Not only poetry lacks formulas, whereas physics lacks literary tropes, or at least they are carefully hidden. Even the words common for both kinds of texts, such as rainbow itself, seemingly acquire quite different meanings along their respective ways leading to or from direct human experience. And the rainbow can serve as a bridge between these lands because it is totally wordless, the rainbow. It is totally wordless. It has no language. It does not need language. It arouses primary feelings that can lead one any way. A few words about me and the universe. I started translating and writing poetry in my teens, but only half a century later decided to try to publish some of it. For me, poetry is first and foremost an expression of human predicament, which consists in consciousness of limits, of beginnings and ends to everything. Let me quote the beautiful stanza by Salvatore Quasimodo. Ognuno sta solo sul cuor della terra, trafitto da un raggio di sole ed è subito sera. Chacun demeure seul sur le cœur de la terre transpercé d'un rayon de soleil, et c'est aussitôt le soir. A rainbow is as transitory can be, but is there anything more eternal than universe? Next, please. The modern cosmology tells us that our universe was born about 14 billion years ago with a big bang, when the universe was very small, point-like, and very hot. Since then, it keeps extending and getting colder. Probably the universe will die, admittedly not very soon, together with everything interesting that we find in it. This vision of the world could crystallize only after the discovery of mathematics, philosophy of general relativity, the development of new technology for observation and interpretation of the cosmic phenomena. It's interesting that one of the founding fathers of the new cosmology was Monseigneur Georges-Henri Joseph-Édouard Lemaitre. He was a Belgian priest, astronomer, and professor of physics in the French section of the Catholic University of Leuven. Lemaitre also proposed what became known as the Big Bang theory of the origin. By 1951, Pope Pius XII declared that Lemaitre theory provided a scientific validation for existence of God and Catholicism. However, Lemaitre resented the Pope's proclamation. There is a story that Lemaitre, together with Pope's science advisor, tried to persuade the Pope not to mention creationism in this context publicly anymore. Lemaitre was a devout Catholic, but he felt that faith and science must be held apart. The life cycle of a human being, and even the existence of life on Earth, is incomparably shorter than the age of the universe. So the study of cosmology can serve one as a powerful distraction from thoughts about brevity of human life, or else to arouse the feeling of the universe as one grand mortal being. Something in human soul, however, raises against this, and recently Sir Roger Penrose suggested a new picture of cosmology in which the stretch between the Big Bang and the heat death of our universe is only one aeon of many, which was preceded and will be followed by similar aeons. It's amazing that reasonably sophisticated mathematical schemes can be created for modeling the cycles of times, and since my last publication was dedicated to this, I wanted to mention it, and I always felt that this mortality of the universe is a raw material for poetry. And I will pass in the second part of my self-introduction by reading two poems. One poem is mine. It is called Late Style. The title refers to the essays by Theodor Adorno and later by Edward Said, analyzing late works by Ludwig van Beethoven, in particular his Ninth Symphony. Now my poem, The Late Style. The deaf, tousled old man is bent over his score. What music is struggling and sorrowing in his brain? A century later, Adorno and Said will assiduously tell us all about the late style. But we really don't need an explanation. The light of the evening sunset once burned through tightly closed eyelids of the skinny 11-year-old street urchin. Thus it still shines, once and forever. The star in the galaxy and the raven on the branch live untroubled by Shakespearean dilemma, because I mean to be or not to be. But we are the late style of the aging universe. Through us it sings its sorrow. Tarry, my soul, don't rush off there where there is neither shame nor a morning shower. And in the eternal emptiness, there are only flocks of angels, like carcasses frozen in the permafrost. No one commanded, but someone let it happen. Averted his eyes, was distracted by a task a bit more important. And I almost managed to hear the late style, the light of the evening sunset burning even more tenderly. And before passing to the last poem, not mine, a short digression. As a mathematician and a scientist studying objective reality, I have never felt empathy with Protagoras' celebrated motto, "Man is the measure of all things." For me, there are too many exciting things in the world that are too small, too large, too weird, or simply totally unrelated, even to the existence or non-existence of human beings. However, citing for this pleasant occasion my little opus Late Style, I suddenly realized that I was trying on the universe as if it were a dressing gown or a bathrobe of extra large size, so that I could take my wife together with me. Perhaps the best remedy for an overwhelming feeling of sadness about the human predicament is a light smile. And I will finish this short talk with the poem Mouse by Alfred Brendel, the great musician and poet with incomparable sense of humor. By the way, tomorrow he speaks somewhere here in Paris presenting his new book. The poem by Alfred Brendel, Mouse. The mouse felt that beyond the world of mice, another, higher, deeper, inner reality, transcended all knowing, squeaking, nibbling ways of the world, like one colossal cheese, awesome, yellowish, with lovely holes, irrefutably sublime. Thank you for your attention.
To let the people escape who are needing to escape. I think it's interesting that, hello, you were talking about, or actually you were talking about wanting to meet this man, and then he was magically drawn to you in this space. And I had something similar, but more as a negative thing, because when we were talking about reading here, I asked if there was going to be a music stand, and I was told there was no music stand. And weirdly, I have a traveling music stand, and I thought about it before I came on this trip. So I feel like one of the things about being a poet is you never know the room you're going to be performing in. And so you imagine it, but you always imagine it wrong. But I think the one thing I did imagine was that there was a music stand, and there wasn't one. And yet I was thinking about mine, and it seemed like it wanted to go from here to there. And so it was almost like you, I feel like you had a successful experience of transporting a person to a space. And I had sort of a shitty experience of transporting a music stand to a space. So this is like just sort of a symbolic music stand, my jacket, and it'll sort of hold up my script in a way. And I think all I need to tell you is that I'm also thinking about what Yuhri was saying about the universe and the universe holding us, and this sort of sadness about being in the universe and not knowing these things. And I was thinking about having a dog and having many dogs or having several dogs. And usually a dog, like I'm 64 years old, and dogs live about 15 years. So I'm about 4 dogs old. And one of the things we feel about dogs all the time is that we kind of measure our life in terms of dogs. And we know, like if I wanted to get a dog now, it might be my last dog, which is sort of sad. And I don't know if I could bear to have that dog, you know? And but what's strange is that I have feelings about a dog because I know that the dog will probably die. I have a feeling I know when the dog will die, and I don't know when the dog will die, you know? But the thing is, the thing about the universe, being a person in relationship to the universe, is that the universe makes me sad because perhaps the universe has a sense of when I will die. But certainly the universe holds me as something that will die. And so part of the relationship to the universe, I think, is a doggy feeling, you know? Or even a hope. I think people's belief in God is a belief that the universe is something that pities me for not knowing. And so I'm kind of like the universe's dog in a way. So I simply wanted to connect your talk to my talk because my book that I'm working on is called Afterglow, and it's about a dog that I had who died. And when the dog was dying, I began writing about the dog, basically to hold on to the dog. And so I owned a dog named Rosie who died in 2006. And so I began to write about her when she was dying. And as soon as I got the dog, because I had always wanted a dog, I looked into the dog's eyes and I felt that I saw my father, who had died. My father was a postal worker, and he died when I was 11 years old, and he was an alcoholic. He died of alcoholism at the age of 44. And so all the time I had this dog, I felt that my father had decided to come back and be my dog, and that he would do that. And it was a very comfortable feeling. So by the time I've mostly finished writing this book, and yet I'm not entirely finished. And so as I got closer to the end, the book wasn't long enough, and I started to imagine Rosie coming to me and becoming very impatient and wanting to speed up the end of the book. And so she dictated the last 30 or 40 pages of the book, and so that's a piece of what this is here. And basically she told me that the end of the book was sort of a tapestry, and that she would I would be the weaver, and she would be like the cartoonist, like Raphael, who designs the tapestry. And so most names in here that you hear are either members of my family or dogs, or both. Because my belief is that many members of my family either have been dogs or will be dogs. And so, right now, Rosie is speaking. And by the way, Peggy, I'm fairly certain, is Nellie. Can that be true? Yes, the dog you so badly wanted, who crawled in your bed, was in fact your paternal grandmother, Nellie O'Riordan. You needed an Irish guide. All the women in the kitchen said that you should take her because that would be the Irish way. But there's no right or wrong way, Eileen. I've watched you spend so much time at the crossroads thinking this or that. Because of the absence of one very clear and important idea, which I will now share with you, longing is not direction. It's okay to feel very sad that this dog is not in your life and you thought she would be. To be a deep and constant well of sadness is a very real thing, but it does not mean that you should go either right or left. It just means you are a well. You need to go on, and especially now, you need to go fast, because you want to cover some land in the time you've got left. I need to finish this tapestry, be done with your book, and resume my own traveling. Your grandmother entered into Peggy because that's what people do all the time, become dogs. And dogs become human that way, and this transmigration of souls is a very Irish thing, remarked upon persistently in literature. But it's wider than Irish or American, more ancient, and we will continue now with our weaving, which I think you understand now is an intuition. A dog talking inside of your head. Listen closely and carry this message to the world. I've been other dogs, and I've been people other than your father. I've been Mani. In fact, that's why you keep getting stuck at the crossroads. Your father was stuck, and so he died, crumpled, but you just kind of pause and scribble a bit, or a lot. Your favorite moment in literature is when Frank O'Hara paused. Did he pause? And thought, I could just make a phone call. It was a dog thought. Robert Johnson paused. You once had a car accident listening to Robert Johnson. He is very important for you. He made a deal with the darkness at the crossroads. It is how he got so great. Like lightning hit those fingers. Give it to me, he said to the devil, and that's what he got. He got it by standing there in between and welcoming the darkness in. You think it's evil, it's something else. It's what's in between. Claim it, own it. You've heard of Manichaeism? It's the struggle between light and dark, and it's very empathetic. It's very thoughtful about the pain of the light particles trapped in all things. The light just wants to get out. I'm Mani. I painted my teaching because if you show a story, it's in the day. It's not trapped in the secret place. I mean, you can barely prove what I said, but I had influence. In fact, people generally know more about me as an anti-belief than a belief. That's okay. I take space. I take space over power any day. My pictures had power and traveled all over the world for about 500 years. I was bigger after I was dead, which I think is kind of my way. And I was trapped in a cell and I died there. What's lost has more power than what is saved, known to be lost. And that tragedy fell within and was felt within the followers. Your mother received a letter from a woman who was on your father's route, number 411 in Harvard Square, and after he died, she wrote your mother to say what a wonderful man your father was. Do you remember this story? No need to reply. I'm taking this right to the end, all of it. I'll introduce people, I might sing a song, but I'm taking it home. I am. Here we go. You've thought about that letter so much because your mother lost it. She never gave it a second. It was the way she survived. And she stood there wavering on a little bit of scar tissue. It was a proud stand. That was her crossroads, and she made a sound, and then she just threw it out. That letter about him, all his letters. He's entirely gone because she needed to keep moving or she would have spent her life at the crossroads. And she built him up as an enormous, invisible man, a letter carrier, a monument, your dad, as someone you needed to see. You have such figures all over your family tree, dogs and letter carriers. Do you know why? I will tell you. To carry the sky, here we go. There's a particular blue, a kind of vibrating denim that was adopted by the US Postal Service in the early 20th century, and it is technically described as blue mixed cadet cloth. The postal uniform is one of my favorite colors, I Manin, I Rosie, I Terence, being illuminated exactly as much and precisely as little as a night sky in winter. In that struggle of night and dark, and this is the exact fabric that depicts a frozen moment, a snowflake moment of color and crystallization that all dogs and precisely calibrated spiritual beings would recognize. Visually, they're colors that are also tones. That's the kind of painter Manin was. He used his color sparingly, just a woof of it. I'm not making a dog joke. I'm making a dog joke. It's an Iranian painter term, and I was born in Persia. I spoke Syriac, Aramaic, but let's be frank, Iran. I was an Iranian holy dog. My book of paintings was called the Arzang. Once I was no longer seated on the holy throne in churches because I was dead, the Arzang would be placed there on the highest seat. It was venerated. It was open. I'm telling you this because in our time, you must make a holy book. A book full of holes about time along the shapes that grace this tapestry. Can I be frank again? This rug, it's a magic rug, and I am a mailman. Your father was a mailman. Your grandmother's brother, Tim O'Riordan from Knocknagowan, Rye Lane, Cork, mailman. Your grandfather's younger brother, who came to be known as Barney, from Dunamckenna, Lytton, Monaghan, mailman. It is a shame, Eileen, that you are not a mailman. I smile. Perhaps you are. But the United States, as we know, is a very evil and accidentally spiritual country. It is a Manichaean country. So accidentally, pyramids speak on its money, and so accidentally, the cadet blue of Persia, a vibrating, speaking color, is the uniform of the common U.S. mailman, and your father, Terence, was one. Terence meaning tender. It's no accident. Am I still Rosie? Perhaps you should go and look out the window and see the mixed cadet blue sky. It's a magical time and a thief's time. It's little wonder that the mailmen worldwide do not simply destroy the mail. In the same way that a chorus of dogs will surely defile and piss on this rug when we are done, and the mailman wants nothing better than to destroy the mail. Why? All these men and women who are carrying these bags and carriages through the streets of the world, all of them are dogs. Does this not give you a different and better feeling about the U.S. Postal Service? It was enough for you to learn there have been mailmen going back in your family's history for as long as there was mail, as long as there was writing. The sky is full of pictures tonight. Cadet blue is made up of millions of pinpoints of light coming through from the other side. Other side of what, you might ask? The holes in the tapestry and the holes in the sky are of the same ilk. It is for the purpose of reproduction. No, of course there is not just one night like tonight. It has a copy, and that has a copy. It is out there somewhere. The universe is doubled. I, Manin, was given prophecy by my twin. If you look long at the double sky, the double universe posing as one establishes a massaging effect on your optic nerve, will open a sea of images, which is destiny and time. It is open tonight, and tonight, the night after Christmas, all the messages that were ever sent, will ever be sent, are written in the sky. Why are the postal workers angry? It is not enough to know that they are dogs. Last night I was told on Christmas, of all time, a sad tale. Of course, Christmas is the saddest day of all for me because Jesus was my other. What day was Manin born? We do not know. No copy of his book, the Arzang, exists. We hope this book will be that copy. We know that it sat on a chair and was revered. The dogs who work for the U.S. Postal Service are sending false messages, and it breaks their hearts. The sad story I heard last night was that a dog outside of the service had been killed, had been put down for biting a mailman. This is a slow religious war. The dogs who have taken the body of male men, either from birth or after the time of the age of 13, when a body of one with a weak nature may be intuited, are the natural prey of the dogs in body who are loyal to the picture, not the script. You would think that dogs would hate writers, but it is not so. Each writer is required to tell a dog story, and so dogs attach themselves to writers to spur on the ghostwriting. And a writer might worry that too many dog books are being written and no one will be interested in reading hers and buying it. And obviously, Mary Oliver has written a dog book. Writing a dog book is hard because the writer is in servitude to the dog most clearly now. The dog has been, The dog has been serving the writer for years, opening up her life and getting her out into the air and onto the beaches, and even bringing attractive people into the unattractive life of the writer who never goes out. And now, once he, the writer, succumbs, the dog gives pictures to the writer, which the writer transcribes, and we are seeing it here, most particularly in chapter 20, entitled Transcript, or Rosie at 15, but we think now it should be called Copy, and that is wisdom. And now, in particular, when Eileen is just laying herself down horizontal like a dog, so Rosie can have her say. Peggy has spoken, and even the little dethroned one, Hank, he will have his say too, perhaps on a website. Eileen has a dog soul, and it is Rosie. Eileen had a dog soul, and it was Taffy, and Taffy died. Eileen had a dog soul, and it was Walter, and she gave Walter away and let him be renamed the hideous Nike. She stood on the road like Mani, and she stood too long, and finally even Walter said, "Let me go." Let's put that one right on the tapestry, paws thumping. Eileen, right up here, because it was a very sad moment. You were laying on the floor by the door, and you were looking in Walter's eyes, and you were praying. And Walter put out his paw, and he said, "Eileen, decide." And you thought he meant, "Go, Eileen." You were not a free soul then, Eileen, but you are a free soul now. And that is why you are doing this great work for us, for me, Eileen, and all dogs. And I want to return to the mailman and the letter. What is a letter, Eileen? As your father is floating over the house, and the child with curly hair is agonizing, writing the words, "I will not talk in the corridors. I will not talk in the corridors." You are beginning your weaving, Eileen. Gertrude Stein is a very great weaver. All writers who use the sonic mode in writing are returning the fruits to the cave. I saw that you smashed a red pineapple one day in your farmhouse in Ireland. I hoped you would see the meaning of it. And your windswept 18th century summer in Italy and Ireland, the pineapple followed you. The pineapple is like Ganesh. I, Mani, brought Ganesh, not into Christianity or whatever you call the thing I was glowing in. Jesus was one ball and Mani was the other. Jesus was my brother. And passing it around, why were you so hurriedly moving the pineapple off the brown windowsill in Ireland that day? Getting ready to go again, I think. Once upon a time, pineapples adorned your brother's bedposts. Your brother was wealthy, Eileen. That was how it seemed to you as a child, because he had a paper route. You do not need a man's wealth. Mani does not need Jesus Christ's fame. People say the pineapple means welcome, but it also screams riche. Grown elsewhere, brought here by magic, the pineapple is a voluminous kind of mail. It will always be delivered. The mail will find you. Whose house are you in now, Eileen? No matter. I think you linked your fate to the road in that shattered moment. You broke with history in its satisfied welcome. There is only comfort now in working closely with me and all the dogs, tracing a path like a Johnny Appleseed of blue fruits and sonorities across the sky. But what it is about letters, for we want to tell the truth at last and not spread the same stale jokes about dogs and mailmen. You have mailmen in your family, and they were dogs, and all mailmen are dogs, some born and some late intuited. We call them impregnated mailmen. Letters are the cave turned inside out. Letters are the magic hidden. Am I against writing? Am I against the text? I am against the pineapple. I broke it. And I am against the letter, too. When they say he goes postal, he is exploding from the pressure of carrying the letter for years. Often he is a soldier. Sometimes they are women, too, in the post office, is the single greatest employer of women in the U.S. government. Women quickly shinny up the pole of power. The pressure of the letter is great. The last great thing about letter writing was cursive, and it is gone. Cursive was a photograph of the nerves of the writer. So, though the load of the letter was great, the flying hand like a bird told the inside of the cave of the writer. It is abstracted stuff. The pressure of the light particles is great inside matter. Imagine when there is no pictures. Each letter rolls in front of a cave and shuts out the light. What else does it do? The last great thing was a typewritten letter. The weight of the body on the tapping machine, the choice of paper. Often the hand has written the address on the outside of the envelope. The body has moistened the stamp and has stuck it on. Less involved, we tear a piece away, we stick it on now. Possibly a hair may get caught in the pressure of that. A dirty person will leave something, if not spit. But how is the mailman against the letter itself? He carries the world. Women too. The U.S. Post Office is the most gender-neutral division of the U.S. government. She carries the compacted dream. The language implodes each time. I have sent her 36 letters of my love towards the end of a century. My wildest love, never before offered in print. I wrote it carefully on light blue paper in India. In another year or two, in a fit of rage, I sent all her letters back, and she burned them. Did she? My love and hers commingled in a pile of ash in the driveway. Another time, a man took all of my young poet letters I wrote him in the 80s and piled them in his sink and burned them. These people are demons, lovers turned unlovers. These tragedies released the news from itself, and somewhere a postal worker's burden was lightened. The letter does not stop. You write a letter and it goes somewhere, and someone reads it, and the letter goes back and forth multitudinously. A letter will never die. It must be burned, I say, to be returned to the light. The post office needs to walk in the blue uniform of time. The mixed cadet, and be seen knowing your messages are being sent by his footsteps and by your thought, the ancient method. Dogs should wander freely, and so should the postal workers. FedEx is evil because it is faster. The post office should be faster still in the Neanderthal way of no trace, not the toxic electronic light of the internet. What is the internet? The observed letter, the unprivate mind. The mind will be open soon enough. The white man came in the middle of the night and he clubbed and axed the children and the women to death. He is not worth the dogs he has working and living with him. Each wounded space will hold a party, and it will. A letter is like a dream of a thought. We mourn the loss of the letter, but dogs mourn the loss of the thought. The postal uniforms could grow softer, longer, and looser, more like tunics. And the post offices could each be decorated by a tapestry such as this, made by idle postal women and men, no longer on a particular route, but wandering aimlessly, being the beautiful letters of our time. To be a season of postal workers wandering in their lightweight, gossamer, mixed cadet blue shirts and pants and gowns. In the winter, the fine blue wool coats reflecting the sky, and when a snowflake falls on the arm of a postal worker, he will stop and smile and gesture to all around him, and they will look at what has landed on him and what is falling in the skies, because he is a dog, and dogs love snow. There is no burden anymore. Neither snow, nor sleet, nor rain shall be anything but colors, and not problems at all. What the sky is doing that I am continuous with, and look at what has fallen on my arm. The hats of the worker will grow lush, wide-brimmed in summer with flowers and fruit beginning to grow off them, and in winter tall feathers to communicate with the birds flying south or staying around. Slowly the hats will fall and drape the bodies of the postal workers, and the clothes will begin to fall away, and the hair will grow wild and curly. The women will be models for all of the other humans. Wild, strong, mammalian women of the U.S. Postal Service, carrying nothing but a strong and passionate attitude and a message for everyone, which is their own bouncing back and forth among them for eternity or infinity or today. time in the hands of the postal worker will become slowly unlabeled. FedEx and UPS will continue rushing around, but increasingly they will not be carrying anything except speed itself. And eventually they will begin bumping into each other and only each other, because the proper refuge will have occurred, and everyone will be beginning to live slowly in the right time with themselves, because there is no kingdom now, and the end is only when the road has invited us to leave. Are we ready?
To try to explain the world with the help of literature is a hopeless cause. Literature is a triumph for inexactitude, an extravaganza of irresponsibility. The only thing which you can request from a writer, it's maybe the respect of spelling, but this is not necessarily so. The broken lexemas and the broken completely punctuation sometimes look like more convincing than text from school chrestomathies. From writers, it's usually dishonest to request anything, more specifically knowledge. Writers write for that in order to show things are they not really, but they can be upon wish, they can be really. Taking advantage from poetry as a source of accurate information, you risk to be disappointed in poetry and in obtaining information. To construct impression about things and phenomena coming from poetic descriptions is the same as trying to understand the psychology of a man by analyzing the number of his mobile phone. It's possible, of course, but there is danger that the obtained information will be not full. Literature in general has infinity of traps, hidings, and underwater currents. This is why to consider it, you have to do it with carefulness and distrust, or with, on the other hand, with enthusiasm and love. But one way or another, all our conception about the world, all our understanding of the world construction, all our principles and convictions are formed by literature. The majority of mechanisms and system of functioning of this world are read by us in our early childhood or teenage and are taken as fact. We can be lucky if all truths about life we learn from good books, and we can be unlucky if the truth is told to us by people who are not worth to be listened to. One way or another, in the majority of cases, our personal experience is formed mainly by the account of others' fantasies and imaginations, and following the others' mistakes and misunderstandings. We happily buy ourselves for this happy and funny imposture, but it's better to learn the space around us with tense and unprevisible tales than legends, but with dry statistic data or mathematical calculations. Literature gives us the possibility to see things as they arrange us. Poetry fills us with illusions mainly from which illusions and with the help of poetry we can explain. Poetry seems to be current to us, pervasive, universal, it explains us what is inexplainable, and it perceives things which are beyond our experience, beyond any experience at all. With the help of poetry, you can talk about whatever. With the help of poetry, you can explain everything and give answers to all questions. This is why poetry is read by nobody. All our fears and complexes, all our phobias and stereotypes also are created as a consequence of reading books, even if we don't read them. The world is such as described by poets and philosophers. If humanity would have other poets and philosophers, it would have a completely different world, possibly less just, more just, possibly on the contrary, more cruel and unjust. For the moment, we have the world we have, and this is what is described to us and explained to us for some 1,000 years. We can like it or dislike it, but we, one way or another, we know how to count with it. There is no other world poets to propose to us. How much is this they can cope? This is why we have to trust them. You have to trust people which are untrustful. Maybe they dare to speak about some things. They didn't fear to go beyond the border, to go beyond the arrangements, to go into the shadow, which frightens so much all of us, those who listen, read, and believe. But we all were used to believe the other's experience, because what can be more truthful and convincing than others' experience? Only one's own experience. But who has it? We all have only the experience of reading. Otherwise, sometimes this looks sufficient in order to live a long time and die happily, not regretting anything and not guessing anything. With the help of words, we can call all known things to us. For calling things unknown, we always can guess new words. In general, things, phenomena, emotions, and beings divide themselves into known and unknown. They divide themselves into named by us and unnamed by us, to those the name of which we can find in our dictionaries, and those which names we have to think of still. But one way or another, this is going into calling things, into telling things, writing and reading. Literature in the end. Even if we suppose that we open something which was until now beyond the border of our knowledge, beyond the border of our imagination, anyways, all this can be a part of our experience, a part of our reality, without calling, without words, without orthography, without syntaxes, without punctuation. We depend too much on the language. We form and we keep to it. We are terribly limited by it. We obtain, thanks to it, the liberty and the infinity. If we can describe something which was not described, which is not fitting description, which which is beyond our experience, it's only with the help of language, usual, everyday home language, simple language, because all most complicated things usually are explained quite simply and quite briefly, and all which we don't know, we suspect, there is a little difference between it and what we know for a long time. In addition, that for us, in a big account, we don't know anything. What in general can be found beyond our experience? I suppose nothing interesting. As much as everything is interesting happened already to us, or didn't happen but could have happened. All the other simply cannot be, as much as it was not until now. The testimony of this is the world literature, which described everything from mermaids to centaurs, to atomic explosions and cosmic flights. It's between centaurs and astronauts that lies all our experience, all our knowledge and imagination, all our understanding of the possible and impossible. What besides centaurs, with what can we be amazed? Nothing. What besides astronauts can make us wonder? Nobody. The world we know, the world we live in, our knowledge is such unreal and fantastic that to wait for something, to count on something, it's dishonest. Our experience is too much unbelievable that we could expect the existence of something beyond it. Our knowledge is too much limited and not serious in order to believe that it can be enlarged. You must be happy with what you have and respect what you will never have, in that much that you will obtain almost nothing. In general, you can voice that. What can you voice that was not voiced to us? How can you find new words? Words in general appear after new objects, new occupations, new phenomena, new sentiments. That mean the thesis about that in the beginning was the word. It's calling skepticism in me. The word should have explained something. Then in the beginning there was precisely not the word. In the beginning was something which was requesting the word, and because of what the word appeared. But what is the word? Only the significance of which is happening to us, that we resent, so that we give attention to. And here we have the following question: how much plastic and active are our words? How are they accurate? What can you, with the help of words, can you translate as emotions? That means It's understood that you can. All poetry is handling on that, on the translation of that which is never given by logical explanation or single descriptions. But how much those translations are accurate? How much are they recreating our experience? How much are they capable beyond the borders of this experience can they go? In general, how our experience is limited, what is beyond it. Let's say love. Very often our experience is about it, that we only approach, we get closer, but we are unable to understand until the end and describe. What can I say about love? With the help of some which chemical combination and mathematic formulas, can I explain that what is happening to me when I speak about this woman? How much poetry, literature in general is capable to describe accurately what is happening in this time with my blood, with my heart, is all my internal organs. How on the level of scientific terminology and medical concept can I explain what happens to my skin, how it changes its temperature, how it changes its color. One would think that love is very simple. It's what we know all about, what we talk all about. What can be the secrets, what can be beyond, what unknown and what unknown experience. On any case, when something similar happens, when you have to say about things which are at first sight for a long time known and understood to everybody, you see yourself with the thought, how much is this all fitting my knowledge and my seeing of the world? How much can I explain and translate all that I resent? What are the possibilities of the language in this case? And what are the possibilities of the heart? Because when you speak about love, you understand that you speak about things that are so important and basic, like, let's say, astronomy, geometry, or geography. You speak about a thing which means the borders of this world, the basic of the world order, the principles of action of all basic elements and basic understandings. And is there a possibility to be understood and convincing? Is there a possibility to explain everything? Is there a possibility to understand all by yourself? Love is a thing which is chimeric and disappearing. It's at least fitting poetry. Or on the contrary, love is a thing so obvious and understood that to speak about it you can only with the help of poems. What do I know about the relation between love and metaphysics? I can only make suppositions, let's say, of this order.